Good morning, everyone. My name is Jamie from the Department of Revenue. Thank you for joining us this morning for our advanced fuel tax webinar. We're excited to have everyone. Joining me today, we do have Aaron, who is going to be your facilitator, and we also have Barb and Samantha, who is also joining us. They are going to be our subject matter experts for today. We do anticipate that this webinar is going to last from approximately 10 to 12 o'clock. I apologize, it says PM, it's actually AM, but the actual training portion is going to last about 45 minutes. We are going to leave the Q&A open, though, for the remaining time for you to be able to ask questions, since we do have our subject matter experts joining us today. Again, there is that Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. Please make sure to go ahead and submit those questions. This webinar is really going to be based on your participation and how many questions you have for us. So please submit those. We want to make sure that you are comfortable and that we get those answered for you. Now, in addition to that, what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be doing some live demonstrations and some walkthroughs on how to file a return within our revenue online system. We're also going to go over how to amend a return, what to do if you receive an assessment, and really just some general navigation so you feel comfortable using revenue online. Once Aaron takes you through that, we're going to walk you through the fuel tax website. And then again, at the very end of the webinar, we're going to go ahead and leave that Q&A open for you guys to ask your questions. Now, our motto is to always help. Our mission is to promote voluntary compliance with Colorado tax laws through information, education, assistance, and customer service. Now, no amazing webinar is complete without an amazing disclosure. So here's ours. This presentation is intended to provide general information concerning Colorado tax topics in simple and straightforward language. Although we've done our best to provide accurate and complete tax information, this information is not binding on the Department of Revenue, nor does it replace, alter, or supersede Colorado tax laws and regulations. We always recommend consulting with a tax professional regarding your specific tax situation. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Aaron so he can go ahead and get this webinar started. Aaron, take it away.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And again, my name is Aaron. I'm with the Colorado Department of Revenue. I'm in the fuel tax unit. I'm the lead examiner for the fuel unit. If you've ever sent in a tricky question or something like that, you more than likely have gotten an email response from me or spoken to me on the phone. Again, this is going to be covering some kind of basic topics of how to file a return. We'll also cover some advanced topics on how to amend returns, how to respond to department assessments, as well as some changes that are going on within the fuel unit. Okay. The big changes coming for 2023 are going to be to the environmental response surcharge. This will be decreasing from 0.00975 cents per gallon to 0.00625 cents per gallon, effective May 1st, 2023. Now, Revenue Online will automatically be updated, so you can file normally in June. You do not need to change your return. Revenue Online will do all of the calculations for you. The bridge and tunnel impact fee will be increasing on July 1st to 3 cents per gallon. This only affects clear special fuel. This does not include dyed diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, or aviation gasoline. Again, Revenue Online will be updated. You do not need to make any changes to your returns. The road usage fee will be increasing on July 1st to 3 cents per gallon. This will only affect special fuel and gasoline. This does not include dyed fuel, jet fuel, aviation gasoline, propane, CNG, all of those other ones. Again, this will automatically be updated in Revenue Online. There's nothing you need to do. You're going to file your return normally in August for that July period. Now, you might be asking, why are we doing all this? So on January 1st, 2022, we had House Bill 211322. This changed Colorado from being a 3 deferral state to being a first receiver state. So what that means is the first person to receive the fuel as it is leaving the terminal is responsible for emitting the tax. Now, for example, I'm pulling fuel out of the terminal. I would report that on Schedule 2. I would be responsible for remitting that tax to the state of Colorado. When I'm importing fuel, if I'm the owner of the fuel as it crosses state lines, I would report that on a 3 or a 4, depending on if I'm importing that into my own personal storage, and I would be responsible for remitting the tax. Now, what has not changed is transactions within the terminal. We say the 4 walls of the terminal or above the rack do not need to be reported. So if I'm selling to John Smith within the pipeline, or I'm selling to John Q and he's putting it into terminal storage, this does not need to be reported on my return. It's really just going to muddy the waters. As inventory, it should only be reported for stuff that's outside of the terminal. Okay. Now, with the passing of the House bill, we converted from COFS, which is the Colorado Fuel Tracking System, to Revenue Online. So for new filers or those who are not familiar with COFS, Revenue Online replaces COFS for all fuel returns, including the courier returns and terminal operator reports. So the conversion from COFS will affect all tax years. So even prior to the initiation of the House bill on January 1st of 2022, all of those returns are now required to be filed through Revenue Online. If you filed your return using EDI, you'll need to convert that file into an XML or Excel in order to amend your returns. EDI is no longer a supported format. The perk of having Revenue Online over COFS is Revenue Online has more features than COFS does. If you've used COFS, you're aware you basically could only file a return and that was about it. With Revenue Online, it's a one-stop shop. You can do a lot more with it. You can basically do everything from your account through Revenue Online, and it'll also catch a lot of the small errors that COFS would not catch. To get to Revenue Online, you have a couple of different options. You can go to Tax.Colorado.gov, and then under Online Services, you'll see Revenue Online up here off to the left. From here, you can also get to GIS. So if you're also handling sales tax or you're also handling aviation fuel sales tax, you can see the applicable rates for where you're going to be filing those returns. Okay. Now, when you visit Revenue Online, when you log in, across the top, you'll see Favorites, Accounts, Action Center, Settings, and More. The Favorites tab, if you're handling more than one tax type, you'll be able to sort which ones you want to see when you first log in. The Accounts, when you click on that tab, will have a listing of all accounts in no particular order. Action Center will display any recent notifications you've gotten. Say, for instance, if you have a past due filing, a late payment, or any other notice from the department. Now note, when you take care of the issue, say for instance, you do have a late payment and you make that payment, this alert will not close automatically. You'll have to manually close this even after you've remedied the issue. And the last thing you'll see is More with 3 ellipses. Now More has 6 different features. You have submissions, correspondence, payments, returns, names and addresses, access management, and additional actions. Now, keep in mind, depending on what your access level is, this might look a little bit different. Okay. Now, when you click on More, in the center section, you'll see a section called Correspondence. Now, under Correspondence, there's 3 different options. You can send a web message using the Send a Message feature. It's basically an email within Revenue Online. It comes directly to us. You can view messages. That's if we send a web message to you or send you a reply, or you can select View Letters. When you select View Letters, it'll show you all of the notices issued by the department. Say, for instance, if you have a non-filer, if there's any important legislation changes, any kind of correspondence that was issued by letter will be there under View Letters. Okay. Now, under Additional Actions, you'll see 5 different options. The first one is going to be File a Protest. The second one will be Cease Account. The third one will be Amend Fuel License Registration. The fourth will be View Distributor Information. And the fifth one will be Submit a Claim. Now, under File a Protest, there's a couple of different options, and it's really kind of a blanket term. It can refer to amending returns, submitting waivers, or outright protests. Each has a different timeline from the department. So if you're requesting a waiver, you can select file a protest. If you're responding to a message, you can also submit a protest. You can also submit a web message. Either one of those will get reviewed by the department and will take appropriate action. Now, with a protest or submitting a waiver request, there are certain timelines that you'll have to follow. You have 30 days from the notice of deficiency or 30 days from the notice of your adjustment. So if you submit a claim for refund and the department has adjusted your return or adjusted your refund, you have 30 days from the date of that notice. If you receive a warning or NOD, again, you can submit this through a protest, you can send us an email, you can send us a web message. We will still review it even if you submit through a protest and it's not a protest. Okay. Now, under cease account, this will effectively close your account. Now, keep in mind that hitting cease on account doesn't close your account right away. You'll still need to notify the department that you wish to close your account because there is a process we have to follow. By statute, you have to return your license to us. And once we verify that either license has been returned or all copies have been destroyed, your account will remain open. Okay. Under amend fuel license registration, say for instance, you're only licensed for gasoline and you want to add special fuel, you can select amend fuel excise license registration. You'll walk through that process. You'll add whichever fuel types. If you wanted to add importer or exporter, you can provide a copy of those licenses. If you wanted to become a supplier, you provide a copy of your supplier IRS registration letter. And then we can process that. There is a $10 fee to amend your license. Okay. Now, under View Distributor License Report Information, that will have a listing of all of the active accounts within Colorado, and this will only be visible if you are logged into your Revenue Online account. When you select this, it'll show you what that person is licensed for. So say, for instance, again, you want to send dyed diesel or diesel to a distributor. They're not licensed for that. You'll be able to see that, and then you can take appropriate action and charge them tax or change the schedule of your disbursement. Now, under submit a claim for refund, this is just the paper version of that form submitted through Revenue Online. Now, for example, you've amended your return, you've amended the return and increases the credits due back to you. You can submit the DR-137 through Revenue Online and attach your supporting documents, just like you would if you were sending us an email or web message. Again, like above, if you want to send us a web message with the paper form, that's totally fine. The DR-137 through Revenue Online is a little bit faster, and it also gives the option to write down a reason and make those attachments. Now, we're going to take a quick sidetrack through filing a return, and then we'll jump into a live demonstration. Now, when you first get into Revenue Online, you'll see the Fuel Excise Tax tab, and you'll see two smaller tabs off to the right. The first tab we refer to as the File a Return tab. The second tab is the Account tab. Now, under the first tab, by default, it will ask you to file a return, and it'll be for the most current period. Now, in our testing environment, it's a few days ahead of real life, so it might look a little bit different, but it'll have the most current return set up to be on there. Okay. The second tab is going to be the Account tab. It's going to give you a very brief overview of the status of your account. Now, in my testing environment, this person just happens to owe us some money, so that's why it says there's a balance due. If there is a credit due, that would be in green. Okay. So now I'm sharing, this is the testing environment for Revenue Online, so I apologize if it doesn't look 100% accurate to how Revenue Online would look in real life. Some other tax types are testing changes. We also have some service pack testing going on, but for the most part, this should mirror production pretty closely. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. And please, nobody write down my password. Okay. Now, when you're looking at Revenue Online, your account information will be in the top left-hand corner, along with your account and address. Off to the right, it'll have your user information, along with Manage My Profile. Under Accounts, you'll have a listing of accounts. In this particular situation, this taxpayer only has fuel tax. If you also have, say, sales tax or corporate income, partnership income, they'll be displayed as smaller tabs down at the bottom here. Now, under Action Center is going to be all of the notices issued by the department. So we have unread letters, we have some missed correspondence, we have some balances due. Again, once you pay those balances, you'll have to manually close those. They will not go away automatically. Under settings, you'll have the option to enroll in electronic notifications and disable paper. Now, keep in mind, some of the notices issued by the department are required to be sent by paper per statute. So certain notices you'll still receive by paper, even if you sign up electronically. The perk of this is that if you do sign up for electronic notices, as soon as we issue a notice, you'll receive an email alert that you've been given correspondence. This is very beneficial if your mailroom likes to lose their mail. That way you'll get an email alert saying that you've got a letter from the department. Okay. Under More, you've got submissions, correspondence, payments and returns, names and addresses, access management, and additional actions. So under submissions, if you've just submitted a return or just submitted a payment, you can go through and look through your submissions. Correspondence, if you want to send a web message, view a letter, or review a web message from the department, it'll all be under these tabs. If you want to verify your payments went through, or if your return went through, you can go under payments and returns, names and addresses. If you want to change your physical mailing address, you can do it from this tab if you have the appropriate access. Access management, if you're a relatively large company and you'd like to add more users to go in and file your returns, you can do it from this tab. And under additional actions, you can set up your EFT payments, or if you need to change your EFT payments, and you can also view your fuel license registration. Now, we're going to go back to accounts, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these options. So now, again, by default, it's going to ask you to file the most current period, but it's not quite due yet. Today is only the 12th of April. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of our previous returns. Now, to do that, you'd want to select File, Amend, and View Returns and Payments. Okay. And this will take you to all of the previous returns. Now, this particular test file was opened in January, so they don't have a lot of history, but all of your filing history will be in Revenue Online, even if you filed those returns through COFS. Now, looking at this person's return, you have returns and you have all periods. If you want a little bit more detail on the specific periods, you can select all periods, and it'll tell you if there's a balance due, if you're missing a return, if you're owed a credit. This will help you narrow down where those things are. Now, in this particular account, they were opened in January. They did not file a return, so we're going to go ahead and file that return for them. So you have a couple of different options. You can select returns, file now, all periods, file return. Either one will take you to the same location. So we're going to go ahead and select file return. Okay. And this is what the return will look like in Revenue Online. So the very first option is going to be schedule upload. If you have a large return, like an Excel document or XML, you're going to use it from this screen. You would select yes and upload your document. At that point, Revenue Online will check for any common errors. If that person, if you forgot to put a date, if the date is outside of range, and it'll give you an error for those. Now, for the sake of this training, we're going to go ahead and submit a zero return just so I can show you what the screens look like. Now, if you submit a zero return, it's going to take you automatically to the tax report, and it will display an error message. Now, this particular return is late, so it will give you an error message saying that there will be penalty and interest due, and that's a $100 late filing penalty. Okay. We're going to go back to schedule upload, and I'm going to uncheck this box just so I can show you what the different screens look like. This very first screen replaces the old DR 7050-56. So excuse me, 7055 and 7056. Now from here, this will display all of your receipts and disbursements, and this will all be on one screen. So what you can do, if you only have one manifest, I would recommend doing web entry. If you have a large return, I would recommend doing the Excel upload. What you can click on is add schedule, and it will show you all of the required information to file your return. So at a minimum, you need to have all of these red asterisks removed. So you have schedule, the fuel, mode, carrier, carrier ID, carrier FEIN, buyer, buyer ID, buyer FEIN, and then the origin. Now, when you're entering the origin, you only want one. So if you have a terminal code, you do not need an origin city or state. Same thing, if you have an origin city or state, you do not need to enter an airport code. You'll need to enter the date. The date has to be within the range of the period. So in this particular period, we're looking at January of 2023. I will receive an error message if I try to enter anything for February. Now, at a minimum, you want to enter the dock number and gross gallons. If you're importing fuel, you'll be required to enter net gallons, gross gallons, and billed gallons. Okay. Now, I didn't enter any information, so it's going to give me an error message. Whenever you enter information, please keep track of that error message. If for whatever reason you cannot clear that error message, please contact the department with a screenshot of that error message, so that way we can troubleshoot it. Sometimes Revenue Online is doing its own thing. We want to make sure we can help you, so please include a copy of that screenshot. Let's say you filed your return and you need to make a correction. You can correct for any number of reasons, but the main reason we see that amended returns are submitted is because you're correcting your reporting. This could be to report unreported gallons, to correct a schedule, to correct a fuel type. If you're amending to change your disbursements, say for instance, you originally reported on a Schedule 5 and you actually meant to report to a government entity on a Schedule 8 or 9, that would be a perfectly legitimate amendment. Now, when you're amending your return, you'll have a couple of different options. You can either send us a web message explaining why you're amending your return, or you can make an attachment to that amendment, and we'll discuss that here in a little bit. If you are making an amendment to a large return, if it's a single manifest that you need to change, I would highly recommend doing a web entry versus uploading a new file. If you do need to make a large amendment, I would highly recommend changing your Excel spreadsheet or your XML. Now, there are going to be situations where the department is asking you to amend your return. Now, the department will issue a request for additional information or issue an assessment based on what your supplier is reporting. And if your supplier is reporting something that doesn't match up with your return, we're going to ask you to correct your return. Now, there are some common errors here. Disbursements that exceed your receipts when no inventory is reported are more than likely going to get a letter from us. Now, for example, let's say, for instance, you receive 1,000 gallons of fuel and you're dispersing 2,000 and you aren't reporting any inventory outside of the terminal. We are going to send you a letter because your inventory cannot be negative. Again, inventory is fuel that is outside of the terminal. If the fuel is inside of the terminal, it is not inventory. Please do not put it on your DR 7050. Now, another common reason we see people amending their returns is to move something from Schedule 2 to Schedule 1. Schedule 2 is tax unpaid receipts, and then Schedule 1 is tax paid receipts. Say, for instance, your supplier charged you tax, you reported on Schedule 2, you realize you made a mistake. I need to amend that and put it on Schedule 1. This will decrease the tax liability, so you have to send a written explanation to the department. You can include that with your amended return. You can send us a web message, or if there's an overall credit, you can include that reasoning with your 137. That's the claim for refund. Now, if your original return had a debit balance and you're amending it and it creates a credit, please submit that 137. Your refund will not automatically be issued. We will send you a letter saying, please submit a 137. If you're amending your return and it decreases the tax liability, please include a written explanation. What will happen is we'll get the amended return. We will see that there's no supporting documentation. We'll send it back to you saying, hey, please explain why you're amending your return. You've received an amendment, or excuse me, an assessment warning or an assessment from the department. What do I do now? The first thing you want to do is review your return in Revenue Online and review the file that you uploaded into Revenue Online. Revenue Online has a filter, so you can review the supplier, you can review the date. You can also type in what you're looking for. So if you want to type in mode CD to see what the department adjusted, that will filter all of the results so you only see the mode CD adjustments. Now, common issues that would cause a warning or assessment to be issued by the department is a difference between how you are labeling your manifests and your supplier labels the manifests. Now, if a supplier is using 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're reporting it as A, B, C, D, we can't put those two and two together. So you more than likely get a request from us to clarify your reporting. If your supplier is reporting dispersing 8,000 gallons of fuel to you and you only report 4,000, you're going to get a notice from the department. If your supplier is reporting selling you gasoline and you report it as dyed diesel, you'll get a report from us. Now, gasoline has taxes and fees. Dyed diesel is only submitted to certain fees. So there's a difference in dollars there. You're going to get a letter from the department. If you cannot locate the fuel, please reach out to your supplier. Now, on the mode CD adjustment, it'll list the supplier who is reporting that to us, or it'll list the state that is reporting that to us. If you cannot find that information, please reach out to your supplier. Suppliers make mistakes. If we realize that the supplier made a mistake, we will then issue a letter to that supplier and have them correct their reporting, so it's no harm, no foul on your side. Okay. I'm going to run through a really quick live demo on how to do an amended return in Revenue Online. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Okay. Now, in Revenue Online, I've got all of my different returns here. I've received an assessment, let's say, for the March 2023 period. I can click on that period and see, yep, I've been assessed for $232. Let me find out what happened. You have a couple of different options. Without selecting anything, you can simply click on View Return, where it says File Distributor Return, and it'll show you all of the information that you had. From the first section, we're not making any changes, so we're going to go ahead and click on Next, and it'll have a listing of all of our return, or all of our schedules, excuse me. Now, down at the bottom, this is a relatively small return. It'll have any adjustments will be down at the end. So I've been issued an assessment for gasoline. It's on mode CD. And John Seller reported selling me fuel that I did not report on my return. I've gone through, I've looked at my return. I've looked at all the documentation. Yep, I forgot to report this manifest 112255. I need to go ahead and amend my return. Now, a couple of different options. At the very top of your screen, there's Print and Amend. You can select Amend. It'll give you the option for what you're amending for. And this is to add previously unreported disbursements, unreported receipts. Choose the one that's most applicable. If you do disbursements and you report receipts, we're not going to kick it back to you. You just need to choose one. Now this is a relatively small return, so I'm not going to upload anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Next and go down to this particular schedule that's been adjusted. Now, on this schedule, I cannot make any changes. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to add this schedule. So I'll need to mirror this identically and then upload that file. And then once that file is uploaded and submitted, it's going to ask you to make a payment. Please do not make a second payment, especially if you have a very large return. The system is great. It's wonderful. It's better than costs, but it doesn't know that you've already made that payment. So please only make the payment for the gallons that you are adding. So if I'm adding 1,000 gallons of gasoline, that's going to be approximately $200 plus taxes and fees. Please do not make a payment for $10,000. We will not be able to send that back to you immediately. You'll have to send a claim for refund, and that'll take 4 to 6 weeks to get your money back. If it's more than $10,000, it can take more than 6 weeks. Please do not send a second payment. Only make a payment for the amount that you're making a change for. Now, in this particular return, again, this is only one manifest. If you have a large return, please do use that filter before you reach out to the department. Research where that fuel is coming from. Talk to your supplier. If you've spoken to your supplier and you cannot find that fuel, reach out to us. We'll do some additional research, but please do your due diligence before you send that to us. Okay. Now I'm going to back out of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cancel, and I'm going to go through it from the beginning. So we want to amend. Now in this particular case, the reason for amending is we're adding previously unreported receipts. I don't have any attachments because my response to this particular warning is going to be my new filing. We're going to go ahead and hit next. Now for this training, I went ahead and created a file that I'm just going to go ahead and upload. Now this has all of my original information on it. And so this is what I would be filing to the department. Once I hit next, it's going to kick out all of the regular errors that Revenue Online would be. So you still need to make sure you correct those before you submit it to us. Again, once you submit that to us, it'll generate a work item for us to review. Once we see that you have correctly reported that fuel, we will remove that assessment and we'll issue you a letter saying that we've accepted your amended return. Now, really quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about our website. Now, our website is Tax.Colorado.gov/fuel tax. From there, you'll be able to find different resources like current guidelines on rates, fuel tax guide, any changes in legislation, the applicability of tax, when fees are due, when returns are due, and you'll also be able to sign up for our newsletter. If you've been a distributor with the state of Colorado for a while, you know that we like to send out email blasts. We are going to be transitioning away from that. So if you'd like to stay up to date on current information, please do sign up for our newsletter. I'm going to stop the presentation really quickly and show you our website. So if you're going to our website, that's Tax.Colorado.gov, under forms, you can see forms by tax type or forms in number order. If you select forms by tax type, it'll give you all of the different tax types through Colorado. So there's business tax. If you're also handling cigarette, nicotine, tobacco, you can go through there. For what we need, we're only going to be selecting fuel tax. This will have a listing of all of our forms, all of our quick links. If you have questions about when fuel tax is applicable, what you need to be licensed for, all of that will be available on our website. We try our best to keep this as updated as possible. However, sometimes legislation changes take a little while to get through. Right now, the biggest update we have is fuel taxes and fee rates, which is going to be off to our left here. Now, this will have a listing of all of our different tax rates, and then all of the changes that we're going to be having to our fees. So the bridge and tunnel impact fee, ERS fee, RUF will all be listed here, and everything will be designated with a footnote. So for instance, if we scroll down to July of 2023, if you recall that the bridge and tunnel fee will be increasing and the RUF fee will be increasing, those are designated with a footnote 1 saying that there's a rate change. Now, ERS fee will be increasing in May of 2023. So that'll be changing from 0.009375 cents per gallon to 0.00625 cents per gallon. That'll be indicated with a rate change. Now, again, we'll try to keep this updated as possible. Certain fees like the RUF fee and bridge and tunnel fee, as we get further along, will be indexed for inflation. So we'll go ahead and keep that updated. And then as far as our resources go, we have a couple of different ones. So if you go to our fuel tax website, please feel free to review that information. We try to keep that updated as possible. Unfortunately, we just don't have the manpower to answer every single question. So please do visit our website, take a look at the tax information, just to make sure you can hopefully have your question answered before you have to send us an email or give us a call. Again, it's tax.colorado.gov/fuel tax. If you cannot find the answer there, or if you have a question that's kind of a one-off, please do give us a call. Our number is 303-205-8205, option number 2. The other options, you can give us an email, dor_fueltax@state.co.us. And again, please do sign up for our email sign up. That's tax.colorado.gov/email sign up. And then once you get signed up for that, you'll be getting the first notice of all of the legislative changes, any fuel tax rate changes, any form changes will be sent out via those blasts. Again, you'll get those a lot faster than if we send you out a paper letter. And we all know our mailrooms like to lose letters, so please do sign up for that email sign up.